Many of you are familiar with the ongoing situation in Ukraine right now. There is a massive diplomatic and possibly future military row between Ukraine and Russia, which would inevitably be a military row between the United States and Russia. Essentially, what happened was the Ukrainian government sent several ships into Russian territorial waters, seemingly deliberately. Russia then proceeded to capture those vessels, hold them, and now they're being charged with trespassing or other such related crimes. Now, the Ukraine says they have every right to send those ships into those waters seemingly for no reason other than to provoke an incident with Russia. Now, it's very obvious that the people of the eastern Ukraine did vote. Donbass, Crimea, the whole separatist areas democratically voted to leave Ukraine and join Russia. That's obvious. There's no denying that this happened. You can not like it. You can oppose it all you want, but it did happen. There was a democratic vote, and these ethnic Russians did vote to become part of Russia again. Now, it's very obvious that the waters, the images of the bridge and the Azov area, people know these are Russian territorial waters. The Ukrainian President Poroshenko knows that if he sent them in there, there would be a problem, that it would cause an incident. He knew that. He very well deliberately knew that. Now, as a result of doing that, intentionally creating this diplomatic row with Russia and claiming Russian aggression, etc., even though it was his ships who went into waters that they were not invited into, has decided that he's going to push for martial law for 30 days and possibly even extend it, which I tend to think very likely that he will extend them. This martial law will occur in 10 out of 24 regions in the country, mostly along the border with Russia and the shores of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Now, it is certainly not a coincidence that this all just seems to happen right now, that Poroshenko's approval rating is about, at the last official polling taking place, 10.5%. Some of the polls even put his approval rating at about 8%. So he's really not doing very well at all, and he is going to lose. He's going to lose the election, if there really is an election. But now all of a sudden, this declaration of martial law comes out. And, democratic laws are all of a sudden suspended. A lot of civil rights stuff is suddenly suspended. Elections have been suspended. So I don't really see that being a whole situation right now. The number one person, at least in the polls, with about 22 some odd % of the vote, is the former president, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. It's the woman with the blonde hair. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to say it right. I know that. So it seems very likely he's going to lose his grip on power, and he is the one basically hand chosen by the United States. In other words, the country is going to fall back into the hands of people that are even worse than him. So the fact that the U.S.-backed chosen leader of the country is going to lose the next election, all of a sudden declares martial law in the country, well, that's a little bit suspicious right then and there, and I believe that has a large part to do with it. Now, we really should understand the context in which all of this actually exists. There is very clearly a power struggle between the U.S.-controlled western part of the country and the Russian-backed part of the eastern end of the country. And that's really what this is all about. The U.S. has had basically unquestionable control over Ukraine for the longest period, since the end of the Soviet Union, what have you. And once that came to an end with the huge crisis in the country in which the fascists took over, there were many people who did not want to live under fascist rule. Mainly the ethnic Russians, who preferred to be allied to their own people. Now, it's very obvious that, Donbass, etc., they can't survive on their own. They're too small, too isolated to essentially be wholly independent. So the next best bet is, well, if they're already ethnically Russian, then they might as well join with Russia. Now, this makes perfect sense of a thing to do. So this is a struggle between the Western-dominated Western Ukraine dominated the United States and the Eastern dominated Ukraine of Russia. Now, of course, this is territorial expansion for Russia. This is not imperialism. I don't think it fits the definition of imperialism, but this is Russian expansionism. But it's democratically voted on. People chose to be a part of Russia. This was a free and fair democratic vote. I see no reason to believe that this vote was not fair. So we do have to understand that this isn't just a rift between two sections of Ukraine. This is something that occurs in a larger geopolitical sphere, something that involves the countries of the United States and Russia, who are frequently threatening each other, who are competing powers in the world, despite anything liberals might say about Donald Trump being the best friend of Putin or Putin having dirt on him, etc. They are very much competing powers in the world, and that's the real context in which everything exists. So as I see it, if the people of Eastern Ukraine, Donbass, etc., did rightfully vote to join Russia, then that is their right to do so, and that should be respected in this context. I see no reason to think that the vote was fraudulent in any way. So in this case, I would think that at least many Marxists would side with Russia in this agreement or side with the Eastern Ukraine. It's very debatable whether these are people's republics in Eastern Ukraine or not. However, they did fairly choose to join Russia, and that in itself should be respected in this situation. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.